Welcome to episode number 32 of The Great Reset. My name is Robert Brill. I am the CEO of Brill Media.co, and we are here 5 days a week talking about marketing and advertising for business owners, entrepreneurs, marketers of all levels, chief marketing officers. And today we're talking about some craziness that's happening with Twitter, and I'm going to jump right to my screen here. I'm gonna hit the transition button. Here we go. Man, so this little box that says get the facts about mail-in ballots is causing a lot of problems for a lot of people right now. Notably, Donald Trump, our president, doesn't like the fact that Twitter is fact-checking his tweets, and yesterday threatened to sign an executive order which is either in the process of being signed, is in various levels of referrals or revisions, or has been signed at this point, to mitigate this fact-checking action that Twitter is doing on its tweets. At the core of the issue here is that Donald Trump says that editing and censorship on social media shouldn't happen, which is really interesting. Immediately, Mark Zuckerberg comes to an interview in the last 24 hours and says Facebook should not be, and social media should not be the arbiters of the truth. And this is an interesting concept because there has been calls from both sides by both Democrats and Republicans calling for social media platforms to censor the other side. And so the core idea here is, what exactly is happening when both sides want social media platforms to censor the other side? Well, it means that both sides aren't really happy. And so I agree that social media should not be the arbiter of the truth. I agree with that statement, frankly, because I haven't heard any other idea that is better than that. You present me with something with better than that, then I might change my point of view. But I don't think an individual, a private company, or a public company should be censoring what is accessible to me as a consumer. Now, there are plenty of arguments that it's already censoring the information that I'm getting because it's algorithmically driving content to me. I get it, but it's not censoring. It's a little bit of a nuance there. So I'm happy with the status quo here, right? So today, Donald Trump signs, or is in the process of signing, this executive order, and this is from a New York Times article from today. The logic is that it attacks the very legal provision that has allowed Trump such latitude to publish with impunity a whole host of inflammatory, harassing, and factually distorted messages that a media provider might feel compelled to take down if it were forced into the role of a publisher that faced the risk of legal liability rather than a distributor that does not. The core idea here is that there's this Section 230. The Section 230 is this part of this larger law that protects media companies from being liable from the content that is posted on their social media platforms if the protection from the liability is stripped away. What that then means is that if I post something ridiculous on Twitter, someone can sue Twitter because of the content that I've posted on social media, which then puts the impetus on Twitter or Facebook or whichever platform you're thinking about to take down my content because they are going to be held legally liable for the content that I post. Okay, so what's happening is people on Twitter are going after this young man, Yoel Roth, who has a PhD from Annenberg, and he's the head of site integrity on Twitter. He's the person behind this little nugget of factual information here. People are going after him, which is certainly a challenge. Jack has come back and said, please don't go after my employees. Here you go. This is the one. Please don't go after my employees. Jack is responsible for everything that happens with Twitter. like a good leader does, he is ultimately responsible for the actions and activities on the platform, not pushing aside any blame, and I admire that leadership. Um, more um, More on Section 230, it exempts companies from most liability speech on their platforms and gives them broad discretion on how they moderate speech. So obviously, and going back to this Section 230, obviously I understand, like there's repugnant content that I think 99% of Americans would agree should not live in public discourse. Also, there are constitutional there's language that is identified in the Constitution that is not protected. Like you cannot scream fire in um, in a movie theater because that may cause problems for people. And I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, by the way. Let's just be very clear. Um, and so I admire Jack Dorsey for taking responsibility for everything that's happening on Twitter. But it's interesting that we are now, Donald Trump is going directly to war with social media. And I think the larger impact here is that we may be at the start of yet another level of problems for social media companies. There's been a lot of talk over the last year and a half around the election cycle about taking out and breaking up large media and tech companies. This might push that forward. Who knows whether that's going to actually happen? But at the very least, it's a challenging time for free speech. That's the news for today. Talk to you guys soon.